Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to Malava constituency. As we detail, Malava constituency is still a fight between the older Luhya nation and the younger Luhya nation from the community part of view. But in the general sense, it's still a fight between the UDA camp and the United Opposition camp. Before the People's Mirror now, we want to put before that very mirror statements of Governor Natembea, who yesterday left Kitale and went all the way to Malava to campaign for Seth Panyaku. We are putting before the People's Mirror the statements of Natembea because we felt they were bullets aimed at assassinating the other camp. We are the People's Mirror, an affiliate channel of the Civic Lens KE, and we'd really appreciate if you subscribed. Now let's delve in. Governor Natembea is one interesting politician who he was former police boss, and while he was a police boss, he was a no-nonsense boss. And then shortly after, he left that position and became the governor of Trans Nzoia County. Now, he seems to be an individual whose bid will go beyond just the gubernatorial position and might actually make a debar entrance as among the first few Luhya people to actually contest for the national seat. So yesterday, he left the confines of Trans Nzoia and went all the way to Malava to campaign for Seth Panyaku, and he made some sensible statements in line of the 27th by-election, but majorly also in line of the 2027 major election. So let's take a look at those statements. First thing first, Natembea locked horns with Farouk Kibet. He was saying that really it beats logic to have Farouk Kibet as the UDA point man in a Malava by-election. This was just echoing the statements that also have been said by other members of the Luhya community hailing from this area, including Boni Halwale, who have previously felt like it was a wrong choice by President Ruto to use Farouk Kibet as the AD. And so Governor Natembea was actually just starting his speech from the point of Farouk to show how other regimes and other individuals have actually downplayed the Luhya man and has had the Luhya man as a lesser being. And so he was saying because people do not respect Luhyas, even if it gets to having a by-election in a Luhya backyard, you still find people sending other individuals to speak for the Luhyas as if Luhyas cannot speak for themselves. So this particular thing that might have started as the easiest way for the president to actually have a huntsman in Malava for the UDA party has now turned out to be actually a shoot in the leg for this particular camp of the UDA government, now that Farouk's involvement in the Malava's by-election is the major point of contention from the members that are contesting against the UDA party. Then he talked about the same clarion call that we are seeing in Bere North, and the clarion call is this: let us return the respect to the Luhya people. And he began his speech by just detailing how the respect have since left the Luhya people. I'll just give you snippets of it before we go down word after word. He was saying that if you need a watchman right now, most likely the person you're going to contact is a Luhya person. And if you need someone to do for you some very hard manual job, like, break for you firewood, you look for a Luhya man. And eventually you'll give them 100 bob and they'll go home so happy. If, for example, you've been blessed by a child and you need like someone to take care of your child while you go to work, you're going to look for a Luhya maid. And Natembea was just showing how historically Luhyas have been secondary, or rather very beneath, in the hierarchy of employment in Kenya, and there is a need to return that respect. So he's looking at the Malava by-election really not as a competition between UDA and the United Opposition. No, from Natembea's lenses, the Malava by-election is a return of respect to the Luhya people. And so it's called upon everyone who is Luhya to actually support Seth Panyaku in this particular reign, so that it becomes that the Luhya community came together to support one of their own and they delivered a win. While doing this, he has also said that he said in his backyard that he has numbers when they were having a conversation in the United Opposition table. And so he was told, go deliver for us Malava and come back to the table and we talk about your numbers. So he says the Malava by-election has a deep personal interest for him because he does not know what he'd go back and tell his friends if the Malava by-election goes to the UDA camp. But other than giving the hierarchy of disrespect and also alluding to self-interest in this particular by-election, he said some other things, and now let's take a look at them. He said that Luhyas can actually elect a leader without manipulation, and this was very interesting because if we were taking a look at Boni Khalwale's clip, you remember Boni saying that for some time Luhyas have been under the followership of Raila Odinga. Everything Raila told them, they did. Now Raila is no longer in the scene, and Luhyas have an opportunity now not to be told what to do by any other person that is not Luhya. And so when Natembia made the same statements that Luhyas can actually elect their leader without manipulation from anyone, he's talking about the UDA involvement and the involvement of Farouk Kibet to have Ndakwa actually elected. And he does not contest the position of Ndakwa, just like the other guy Boni Khalwale. He says Ndakwa is still an MCA and will still retain his position as an MCA. They do not want to contest him because he's also a fellow lawyer man. But because Ndakwa is being introduced to them by a UDA person who is not Luhya, they are resistant to that idea. So tribal politics are going to take a center stage in Malava, and has taken a center stage in Malava, and could be the determinant in that particular area. They are saying they will vote for Panyako because he's Luhya initiated, and not Ndakwa who is a fellow Luhya because he's Kalenjin initiated. So Natembea also says that Luhyas have been segregated in national government positions. He gave examples. He said that no Luhya has ever been an IG of police. He said that no Luhya has ever been the head of Kenya Defence Forces, and even if they are put vice head of Kenya Defence Forces, they are put in a manner that for that particular position of Chief Defence Forces to go around until it comes on the Luhya man, it finds when the Luhya man has already retired. So he was just showing how segregation in these other positions of government, leave alone the direct ones you see like the nomination of Mudavadi or Wetangula sitting as a speaker, in the real running day-to-day operations of the government, Luhya people are not given a center stage. And so this is a reason why Natembea is calling upon the Luhya people to actually take this as a clarion call to give respect back to their people. He takes it upon himself, kulinda wa Luhya. He says that he asked them a very interesting question. He asked that out of the people that are seated here in this particular campaign rally, if he was to say, now quoting him, if he was to say that he'd close the gate and the only people who would get out of that particular place are individuals who'd pay 200 shillings, how many people would walk out? And you'd see how a lot of people raised their hands saying that they would not walk out. So he's saying that even the fluid cash is not in the pocket of a Luhya person. You give a Luhya person a very hard task, and then you ask them how much you want to pay them, but because they've been so poverty subjected, the response that mostly a Luhya man would give you is that nipeko ile yenye umeona, and from that you give a Luhya man 100 bob, he goes home crying on when he will leave the poverty spectrums. But poverty has subjected them so much that they do not even know the essence of negotiating what is rightfully their own. So Natembea is using this as an opportunity now to project a face of coming to save the Luhya people, moving forward from this particular historical shackles of poverty to a point of negotiating what really belongs to the Luhya people. And he's seeing the Malava by-election as a good starting point for the Luhya people to first have a solid voice. Then from there, ahead of the 2027 elections, now they can have a conversation and create a negotiating culture ahead of other elections in the national seat. So that was also very, very interesting, and also displayed, or rather connected with the crowd in a very real manner, displaying the subject or the level of objectivity that the Luhya people are currently going through or have been, programmed to go through for quite some time. He gave another example, because I said Natembea's statements were all bullets aimed at assassinating the other camp, but also rather they were bullets aimed at waking up the Luhya man, because every example he was giving was right there in Malava where he was speaking. And in his recent example, he was talking about no bank in Malava. He asked them, why do you think there is no bank in Malava, yet you contribute over 2 billion annually to the national coffers? And he told them, if each of you was to count a shilling without going to the washroom, without eating lunch, without showering, without going to church, and to count a shilling of a billion from now to when the last shilling ends, 1, 2, 3 all the way, putting 1 shilling to the next, 1 shilling to the next, he gave them approximate 30 to 35 years that they would spend just counting those particular billion. And so he was trying to show a lawyer man how a billion is quite some money, and how they release 2 billion to the national coffers annually, yet they do not even have a bank in Malava, showing how the national government has used Luyha land as a place to gather resources from, yet has not relocated resources to the hands of the ordinary Luyha man. The ordinary Luyha man gets his money and does not even see the purpose of saving it, because he does not have even much to save. So he was giving this example to show the Luyha people how they are really down. They are in abject poverty, and in this particular position, the only thing that can save them is if they elect good leaders, not only in the by-elections but moving forward. So he said now it is time to save Luyha land, so that a Luyha man is no longer the watchman or the maid or the conductor or the person being given the menial jobs, but a Luyha man is exposed to a level of competing in the national scene as also a fellow worthy human being. He talks about the hardest jobs going to lawyers, and lawyers of course being maids and soldiers, and of course still talks about the Ndakwa position, asking Ndakwa to actually rally support beyond Seth Panyako and go back and maintain his position as the MCA. That way he will be showing that he's also part of the Luyha unity. So Governor Natembia, that was a former police officer, is now a very interesting political figure, and as I said, might be the few Luyha political figures that might create a crazy debate in the national contest in the next coming years. And he has taken it as the current generation to actually now do away with the older generation of lawyers who have been power brokers and introduce yet now a new generation of lawyers that can negotiate for the interest of lawyers in the national seat. Interesting takes and interesting campaigns, modules and setups from the Malava constituency. We keep our eyes fixed in that particular area from whatever statement that will be made that is worthy of reshaping the narrative in 2027, but rather of delivering the win next Friday. We will keep you updated.